back to Let's Play Saga Red Dead. Play Red Dead Redemption and tell stories about the Old West. I believe I'm going to go over here and talk to a guy, try and take a short quest or a mission, and we'll just see where this leads us, because it's been so long since I played this game I don't remember it all. So.
Jose?
You want to go hunting?
What are you hunting? An elephant?
I wish. No, I saw a huge bear. One of the biggest I ever saw. I reckon nearly 1,000 pounds.
My God. But you need me to come with you.
Of course. Let's go.
Where are we heading exactly?
Up near the Dakota River. Might take a day or two.
I could do with a break from this place.
Oh, me too. It's been a rough couple of weeks. You need anything?
I don't think so. I got all I need.
Let's go then. So you still ain't replaced Boadicea?
Nah, I miss her. She was quite a horse. This one's okay, but ain't no Boadicea.
I've been meaning to offload this big Shire horse for a while now. Unruly bastard.
Where'd you get him?
Some big, loudmouth bastard tried to rob me when I was out riding, so I... Well, you know how it is.
I see.
Let's take him to Valentine. It's on the way, sorta. If there's a decent dealer there, we'll unload him, you can buy yourself a new horse. Put your saddle on them, let's get going.
Okay, but I do kind of like this horse.
There's nothing wrong with two horses, and the stables always have the best ones.
Well, I guess you're right.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about horses and their role in the Old West and why they were important, and we'll talk a little bit about Mustang. But back in the West, horses are literally probably the most important thing that made the West what it was. We were able to actually expand the West, and the Spanish brought horses here long before the Old West happened, and a lot of them got free and got loose and everything, and the Native Americans, they captured a lot of those horses, but a lot of them went wild. But the Native Americans were responsible for breeding horses and actually having horses as prevalent in America as they were, and they put them to great use as well. But I think a lot of people, when you watch Western movies and stuff and you see the Native Americans, they're on horses, and I think a lot of people just think that those horses were here, that the Native Americans always had horses. And they didn't. When the Spaniards came over, they let a lot of horses out, and that's where the horses came from.
Some beautiful saddles.
No, that's a little bit of interesting history up until that point.
Got stolen outside that saloon in Deer Creek.
Horses weren't
remember
here.
Now, just about. That turned into a long day.
Yes. Remember? Mac went crazy, threatened to kill the whole town. And Davy was passed out so cold we left him there. Came back in the next day and he woke up, started right back drinking again.
I miss those boys.
Jenny, too. She had some spot, that girl.
It must be pretty hard on Lenny. You could tell he was sweet on her.
Well, Lenny and Jenny could never have worked. That's like Arthur and Martha, or Bill and Phil.
I love the conversations that they have.
Does feel a bit like our luck died with them, too.
Nonsense. We'll be all right. Just need some money to get back on our feet.
I hope so. You found a way to offload those Cornwall bonds yet?
Not yet. They're still very hot. Need to be done right. I have a couple of leads I'm looking into. Don't let that big bastard get the better of you there, Arthur.
He's all right.
Come on now, get moving, will you?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Stables are just up ahead.
Hello, sir.
All right, so this big horse here,
Go
definitely
sell that
not a
big
Mustang, but it's hammer-headed for sure.
Okay.
I'm going off to the general store.
A hammerhead horse
Get
was
a
a
few things to
stubborn
lure that
or
bear out with. Meet you back here in a bit.
hard to ride horse. They were mean. They
Hey, how can I help you?
oftentimes would take
I'm in the
just the
market
one
for a
owner.
new horse. Something strong and fast.
Yeah, well, you're in the right place. I got some beauties in at the moment. Yeah. And what about this one here? Yeah, you looking to sell?
I ain't sure yet.
You got papers?
No. No papers.
Well, of course, that's gonna affect what I can pay. But your luck's in. I got a fella who's been looking for a decent workhorse like this for a while. He'll pay a good price. Otherwise, I can always stable him here for you. Here, take a look.
Now the Mustang, a lot of people they think of Mustang and think of a larger horse, but the reality is Mustangs were usually quite small horses. Actually, they were wild horses, and they were known for not taken to a rider very well. In fact, actually, a lot of times, especially with a hammer-headed Mustang, if you got a hold of a hammer-headed Mustang and you could ever break it, it would really only ever be broke for you. It wouldn't let another rider ride it. They were very loyal animals once you got them broken, and they would go night and day. They would ride. You could ride them all day, and a lot of people with modern horses and what they're used to is that, you ride a horse hard through the day, and at the end of the day, you got to rub them down because they sweat and their muscles get all tied up. You got to rub them down. You got to treat them very, very carefully, or they'll be all stiff the next day and they won't be any good. These Mustangs and stuff like this, though, man, they'd ride all day, all night, rain, sleet, snow, it doesn't matter, and they'd be just as good the next day as they were the day before. They could also take you down a trail that no other horse could. They'll go where mountain goats go, which is even now is just insane to me. But if you fly over plains over in Arizona and stuff, you can still see some wild horses running around, and they'll be up on top of mesas with no clear path of how they got up there, and it is quite impressive how the Mustangs are. But they were very determined horses, and a Mustang, at least back then, a Mustang could track another horse. They could smell as good as a bloodhound when it come to tracking a horse, and so they were favored of lawmen a lot of the times who could break them, because you could put a horse on a trail, and it could follow other horses, which is quite interesting. But you're talking about people would break these horses, and then it'd be called what they called riding the rough strain, and they would blindfold the horse. They'd put the saddle on it. They'd get on the horse. They'd pull the blindfold off, and this horse would buck and buck and buck and buck. And when it was finally done bucking, it would ride for quite a little ways. And then they'd just consider the horse broke. It was called rough breaking, and you would let it loose in the corral. Oh well, that horse is broke. Next cowboy comes around. He has to get out there. He has to get the lariat out, and they got to lasso the horse and do it all again. And that happened quite a bit, and there were a lot of horses that were considered unrideable or just too mean or not capable. There was a cowboy. He was a black cowboy named Bones Hooks. He was really famous for his day, but he's just kind of been lost to history a little bit. But the reality is that he was a bronco buster. That's what he did. He broke mean horses for a very long time. In fact, actually, it was said that there wasn't a horse that he couldn't ride. But he was working as a porter for the Santa Fe Railroad, and some men were on there. Two ranchers, they were on there, and they were talking about this mean horse that this one rancher had. And he's like, I don't think there's a man alive who can ride that horse. And the other guy was telling me, he's like, I think there probably is. He goes, there has to be someone who can ride that horse. And Bones overheard him, and he kind of leaned in and to the rancher, and he said, "Hey," he said, "if you give me a chance," he said, "I can ride that horse. I can break that horse." And he had done this for many, many years, breaking horses before he worked for the railroad. That was his job for a long time, was breaking horses and raising out horses for people to ride. And train stopped, and they held the train there, and he got off the train. Like they stopped the train from going to the next station so that Bones Hooks could get off this train. And he went and rode that horse, and well, he rough broke that horse at least. It's a very interesting story. There's a lot more about Mr. Bones Hooks that I want to talk about later. But when it comes to horses, probably one of my favorite stories about breaking horses. They hold up a whole train, all these people having to travel and everything else, so this guy can go break a horse. I always thought that was a really fun, impressive story.
Here are your papers, and on me,
But
new grooming brush.
horses were very, very important to life, and I mean, in fact, actually,
this fella well.
there were plenty of things that you could get hung over, but one of the quickest ways to get hung was to steal a horse.
Interesting choice.
There was so much
How much did you
distance
pay for that
between
thing?
things back
Not
then.
that much.
Okay.
And you don't think about
with
10,
some
15,
good
20
care, you
miles
should
being
be
a
able
lot
to
of
make
lot of
something of it.
distance now because of cars. But if you were 20 miles from a town, from any town or more, and you didn't know where water was, if you didn't know, or you were
Are you gonna
were
mount
10
that
miles
new horse
away
of
from
yours
water,
or not?
and someone held you up and stole your horse,
All right, let's
it
get
was a
going.
death sentence.
We got quite a ride ahead of us.
Lead the way.
Horses were expensive. I
what's
mean, we
this lake
talked
we're
about
heading for?
some guns
It's called O'Craig's
last week and
Run.
how much you could
Up
get.
in the mountains
Guns were
east
kind
of
of
Cumberland
expensive
Falls.
if you bought them new, but
I
you
just
could get
hope I
used
can
guns
remember how
for
to get
fairly
there.
cheap. And I know for like I was saying, like $5 you could
I
get
sure didn't figure
an
on
old
that.
Army
this
Colt or
time we're
something
doing the
similar
chasing.
to it. And it might
So
need a little
how are
work, but
things
it
with
would
you and John?
operate for $5, and that was a gun.
Ain't it about
And
time
guns
you let
were
it go now?
very, very
It was a
important
year.
to survival in the
He
Old West.
ditched us for a goddamn year.
And you're talking
I've
about a cheap
spoken to him
horse
many times.
costing
He knows
$65.
he did wrong.
And
just
that was
wants to put
definitely
it
a used
behind
horse. you
I'm
weren't
sure he
you weren't
does.
buying a
Running
young
off
horse
on
for that. You were
kid's
buying
one
a
thing.
horse
It's
that had been
cold.
broken,
He
ridden,
knows
and
that. He ain't
and all of
trying it.
that for a decent amount of time.
You
So
pretty much raised him.
I know.
horses weren't cheap,
But it's
and
done.
work
Has been
horses
for a
were even
while
more
now.
expensive because you didn't
Nobody
find them in the
else
wild
would've
and break them.
been
Those
welcomed back
had to
that
be
easy after that
brought in and
long.
trained,
you
and
know it.
they had
Maybe.
skill
But
to
please don't
pull,
you
and they
put
had to
that
have the
to
right
the
temperament
test.
and all of that.
Uh,
And so you
I
talking about
never
like
would.
stealing a farmer's horse. That's his livelihood. Like going onto a piece of land and taking his taking a farmer's tractor, and you're talking about like a rancher or a farmer or something way off, 10 miles from town, 15 miles from town, and he has to get into town. And we'll say a farmer, not a rancher. A rancher would have plenty more horses, but you're talking about a farmer that's just off on a little
Okay.
homestead in the
I
middle of
think we
nowhere.
need
He's
to
still
head
that
right
man's
up
horse. It could take him quite a while to actually make it to town and let the law know, and if he made it at all. So it was very, very
Yes, I
big
remember
deal
this place.
to steal a horse.
Moonstone Pond. We're going the right way.
And they'd hang you for it. They'd hang you for it because stealing a horse was tantamount to stealing someone's life. So it was a really interesting thing of how important horses
We
were,
made it.
and
Let's loop around
like
the
the
other
different
side.
difference in the types of horses and what horses were used for. I believe we're going to come up here and settle down for the evening, go camping, and possibly get some food. I know here in a minute I forgot how to track an animal. That was fun.
Look there. Rabbits. Maybe we should catch one to cook.
Sure.
I'll apologize
Try
for
and
the
shoot one.
stupidity
You
on
don't
my
wanna
end
use
where it looks
anything
like
too
I am just
powerful on a
crawling
small
around
animal
looking like an
that.
idiot. So.
Just ruin the meat.
But
Best
hope you
thing's a
enjoy the
bow
rest
or
of
a
this.
22
I
caliber
hope you
varmint
enjoyed
rifle.
I have
the
hunted
talk of
rabbits
horses and
before.
whatnot, and we can
Yes, and obliterated them with a shotgun.
tell some more
if I
stories
remember right.
about bone hooks another day. He was an impressive man. So hope you enjoy the hunt. Hope you enjoy the camp, and I will see you all next week.
You're okay, boy. Go!
Good job. All right. It's getting late. Reckon we should camp here.
Sure.
Well, then, you get us set up.
I'm famished.
Cook that rabbit, then. They're delicious on an open fire like this.
Fine by me. You want some of this?
No, I'm fine. I don't like eating this late.
Okay. After all that.
All right. Well, we better get some rest. I want to be up at first light to find this monster.
He better be worth all this drama.